Hello and welcome to Spectrum News at 12. I am Uyai Anyekan, coming to you live from the beautiful hills of Ibiakuran. Let's take a look at the headlines.
And very importantly,
President Buhari tells youth there are no jobs in government. Federal government approves entry level for nurses at level 10. Plus, U.S. Navy destroyer performs freedom of navigation exercise in South China Sea. Details of the stories and more in a moment. First on our news today is a report that President Muhammadu Buhari has urged youths to acquire knowledge, not towards getting government jobs, as there are no jobs in government anymore. He also urged youths to acquaint themselves with history to avoid making the same mistakes of the past. According to a statement signed by his Senior Special Assistant on Media and Publicity, Garbara Shehu, Buhari said this when he paid a Salah homage visit to the Emir of Dara, Farouk at his palace. According to the statement, the president implored parents to inculcate right values in children, including deep fear of God, respect for constituted authorities, and living a purposeful life through continuous education, noting that emphasis should now be on skills acquisition and competence in creation and deployment of technology. He further urged all Nigerians to make sacrifices to move the country forward, especially the public servants, calling for more selflessness and inclusion.
Let us speak to the youth that the federal government has no more vacancy. Virtually every department is filled. The same thing in the states, the same thing in local governments. So you can have a good degree from a good university, and you will never get a job. And very important,
He has said he is not leaving any inheritance behind for his children, saying his greatest asset to them is education. Buhari stated this when he visited the Emir of Dara, Dr. Farouk, at his palace on Salah homage. During the visit, the president also called for children to be taught the history, because without an understanding of the backgrounds, they will find it hard to be patriotic, responsible, and respectful. Buhari told the Emir of Dara that he will visit Dara more regularly, preparatory to the handing over in May 2023, adding that the demands of his office were responsible for his limited visits. Away from that, the federal government has said it was currently engaging oil marketers on issues bordering on the cost of premium motor spirit, popularly called petrol, fuel queues, bridging claims payment, among others in the downstream oil sector. This came as the Major Oil Marketers Association of Nigeria joined their counterparts in the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria and the Natural Oil and Gas Suppliers Association to call on the government to gradually raise the price of PMS. General Manager, Corporate Communications Department, Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Regulatory Authority, Kimchi Opolut, told journalists that the government was currently engaging the oil dealers and the meeting might lead to an upward adjustment in the pump price of petrol, as oil marketers had repeatedly blamed the persistent fuel queues in various parts of Nigeria on the unsustainable cost of PMS. Meanwhile, the federal government has reportedly approved a new entry level for nursing graduates into the Nigerian Public Service. This was disclosed in a memo by the Office of the Head of Civil Service of the Federation, signed by the Head of Civil Service of the Federation, Dr. Folashade Yemi. According to the memo, the National Council on Establishments at its 43rd meeting held at Abuja approved the entry grade level for nursing officers into the Nigerian Public Service from SGL 9 to with effect from 28/2022. The memo indicated that the new nursing cadre would be structured as follows: Senior Nursing Officer / Senior Nursing Tutor grade level 10, Principal Nursing Officer / Principal Nursing Tutor grade level 12, Assistant Chief Nursing Officer / Assistant Chief Nursing Tutor grade level 13, Chief Nursing Officer / Chief Nursing Tutor grade level 14, Assistant Director Nursing, grade level 15. Deputy Director Nursing/Director States, grade level 16. Director Nursing, grade level 17. In the meantime, the federal government has accused the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, of unilaterally fixing the salaries of lecturers. Minister of Labour and Employment Dr. Chris Ngige stated this in a statement by the Deputy Director of Press and Public Relations in the Ministry, Olajide Oshundun. The minister accused ASU of fixing its salaries and allowances through the Nimi Briggs Committee while excluding the state statutory government ministries and agencies that manage finances. According to him, the committee's proposal of 185% wage increase would cost 560 billion naira in salaries alone, up from 412 billion naira. The statement says that there is no such collective bargaining agreement that has been reached between the federal government, ASU, and other university unions on the renegotiation of their salaries and allowances. According to him, what is in existence is a proposal, and it is not the president that signs it. From available records, no Nigerian president or sovereign signs such. Meanwhile, Chief Whip of the Nigerian Senate, Orji Uzokalu, has called on the federal government to immediately put up measures to end the prolonged industrial action by the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU. In a statement he signed, the lawmaker said incessant strikes by the lecturers could lead to poor quality of graduates in the country with far-reaching implications for national development. He called on both parties to stop playing with the future of Nigerian youths who have been at home for over 5 months. Recall that ASU on February 14 shut down all public universities, protesting the inability of the federal government to implement agreements the two parties entered into in previous years. Away from that, Corps Marshal Federal Road Safety Corps Bomboye Oyeyemi has commended Inspector General of Police Usman Baba for banning spy number plates. Corps Public Education Officer Assistant Corps Marshal BC Kazim conveyed the commendation in a statement that Oyeyemi has directed commanding officers of the Corps nationwide to collaborate with the police force to enforce the order. The FRSC chief directed the immediate reversal of spy numbers to the original registered number plates and ordered the seizure of private vehicles using commercial number plates. He further advised road users going about with faded plates to replace them to avoid impoundment of their vehicles, noting that faded and other unauthorized plates pose a threat to national security. In another development, the Federal High Court in Abuja has fixed today, Thursday, 14th July 2022, to deliver judgment in a suit seeking the disqualification of Governor Adeboyega Oyetola of Osun State as the All Progressives Congress APC candidate in the July 16 governorship election. Justice Inyako fixed the date after counsel for the parties adopted their processes and presented their arguments in the matter. The plaintiff in the suit and a chieftain of the APC, Moshood Adeoti, had filed the matter. Adeoti was one of the aspirants who lost the APC governorship ticket to Governor Oyetola in the party's primary held on February 19th. In the originating summons, he prayed the court to nullify Oyetola's candidacy on the grounds that the governor contested in the poll as a member of the party's caretaker extraordinary and convention planning committee. According to him, the second defendant, Oyetola, ought to have resigned his membership of the APCs and leave office as an officer of APC at least 30 days prior to the date of the Osun State primary election to qualify for participation in the said party primary election. Recall that Governor Oyetola is seeking to extend his tenure in office by another 4 years, having won the last election held in 2018. Still in politics, the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, LP, Peter Obi, has expressed displeasure over the statement made by All Progressives Congress presidential candidate Asiwaju Bola Tinubu that Labour Party obedience and others will labor till death. The LP presidential candidate, while reacting to the statement, urged Nigerians to remain resolute and committed to voting for the LP. Obi, who spoke at Women and Children Development Initiative Foundation Center in Osogbo during the grand finale campaign rally of the governorship candidate of the Labour Party for Saturday's election in the state, said that Nigerians need to take back their mandate from a party which have kept Nigeria in darkness for 22 years, adding that the ruling APC had not done anything in Osun State to warrant re-election. In Africa, the government in Ivory Coast has denied that 49 soldiers who were arrested at Mali's international airport 4 days earlier posed a threat to the country. Recall that on Tuesday, officials in Abidjan called on Mali to immediately release the soldiers who were arrested on Sunday at the international airport in Bamako, refuting accusations they were mercenaries. The Ivorian Minister of Communication, Amadou Olibe, who spoke after the weekly cabinet meeting, said in Mali, those who are in power are soldiers. They know how to overthrow a regime. It's not done by tourists who arrive at the airport. He therefore urged the Malian government to release the soldiers who are reportedly on peacekeeping mission in Mali. We move now to Africa, where the president of Benin Republic Constitutional Court, Joseph Jungbenu, has resigned from his post 6 months before the January 2023 legislative elections. According to a press release published on the court's website, the vice president of the Constitutional Court received the letter of resignation of Joseph Jungbenu in his capacity as advisor. Recall that Joseph was elected deputy court president in 2015 and then appointed Minister of Justice after the election of Patrice Talon in 2016. Reports say with his resignation, Razaki Amoda has now taken over the leadership of the institution. Meanwhile, in Benin, the Constitutional Court's mission, among other things, is to monitor presidential and legislative elections, as well as referendums, to ensure the constitutionality of laws and to handle compliance of human rights violations. Still in Africa, Sri Lanka's embattled President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and his family, I beg your pardon, who were once seen as heroes of the nation who defeated the separatists in a bloody civil war, are having a tragic final days. Recall that in the early hours of Wednesday, the embattled President Gotabaya made a hurried exit from the South Asian nation, days after thousands of angry protesters broke into his official residence, swam in his pool, and demanded he finally go. His departure is a historic moment for the island nation of 22 million, which the Rajapaksas had ruled with an iron fist for much of the past 2 decades before losing the faith of their once adoring citizens. Meanwhile, Sri Lanka's Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, appointed by Gotabaya to take over power, who has also been rejected by the people, has told the military to do whatever is necessary to restore order after protesters stormed his office on Wednesday. We move over now to the foreign scene, where Turkey government has said talks aimed at resuming Ukrainian grain exports blocked by Russia in the Black Sea have produced a deal, raising hopes for an end to the standoff, which left millions at increased risk of starvation. Turkey's Defense Minister Hulusi Akar said both sides had agreed on ways to ensure the safety of shipping routes for grain ships, stressing that the agreement would be signed next week when more talks are set to be held in Turkey. Meanwhile, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, who called Wednesday's progress a critical step forward, has said more work was needed to finalize the deal, which would require a lot of goodwill and commitments by all parties. Diplomats said negotiations included plans for Ukrainian vessels to guide grain ships in and out of mined port waters, noting that it was also suggested that Russia would be urged to respect a truce while shipments move, while Turkey, supported by the UN, would inspect ships to allay Russian fears of weapons smuggling. In the meantime, a U.S. Navy destroyer sailed near a disputed South China Sea island chain on Wednesday, challenging the restrictions imposed by China and others on transit through the area. Spokesperson for the U.S. Navy's 7th Fleet headquartered in Japan, Lieutenant Nicholas Lingo, said it was the second so-called freedom of navigation operation in the Paracel Island, known as the Shia Islands in China, so far this year, and the third targeting Beijing's excessive maritime claims in regional waters during the same period. Reports say Wednesday's operation by the guided missile destroyer USS Benfold challenged not only China but Vietnam and the self-ruled island of Taiwan, which also claim the islands, as all three governments require military vessels to seek permission or give advance notice of innocent passage through the area. Still to come in the news, USA confirms Falcons doubleheader friendly. Do stay with us. Thanks for staying tuned. On our business news, hiccups in the vehicle valuation system of Nigeria Customs Service may hamper the importation of used cars, just as thousands of dealers and agents are on the verge of losing their livelihoods. The system, despite having undergone review, is being sabotaged. who face hurdles in the process of clearing their vehicles. Many importers have been forced to abandon their vehicles at the terminals, accumulating charges, a situation that has increased the cost of vehicle clearing and purchase. Recall that the Customs Service introduced the VIN valuation policy in January of 2022 to aid trade facilitation and enhance the cargo delivery process. The platform was intended to reduce human intervention and make clearing more seamless. Ahmed Bello Koko has expressed readiness to boost Calabar port by giving tariff reliefs to importers using the port. Bello Koko, who said this in Calabar when he visited the palace of the Obong of Calabar, Edidem Ekpo Konobasi, Otu 5th, also lamented that draft limitations had made the port inefficient. He said importers patronizing other neighboring ports due to the challenges faced at Calabar port must be brought back, even as he disclosed that the port had come back to life as a vessel berthed at Eco Marine Terminal, discharging over 200 trucks and equipment. Bello Koko, who further said that the agency would prioritize the rehabilitation of ports, especially the eastern ports, stressing that the operators had been asked to market the terminal. He appealed to the Obong on the need to prevail on his subjects, especially those at the riverine areas, to stop vandalizing navigational buoys. Over to health now, where the United Nations has urged stakeholders to position women and girls at the center of economies to achieve the 2030 agenda of the Sustainable Development Goals. The UN Resident and Humanitarian Coordinator for Nigeria, Matthias Simel, made the call at the Africa Social Impact Summit in Abuja. He said the challenge for older generations is to create an enabling environment for young people to reach their full potential, especially the youth, women and girls. Smell stressed that if women and girls are positioned at the center of economies, the African continent and particularly Nigeria will fundamentally drive better and more sustainable outcomes for all, support a more rapid recovery and put Africa back on a footing to achieve the 2030 agenda and its accompanying SDGs. On HIV and AIDS, the National Agency for the Control of AIDS and critical stakeholders has urged religious leaders to champion the campaign against discrimination and stigma faced by persons living with HIV and AIDS. The Zonal Coordinator Northeast NACA, Tobias John, made the call in Abuja at a stakeholders dialogue aimed at setting the agenda for faith-based consultations on stigma and human rights in HIV. John, who called on faith-based organizations to rise to the occasion in reorienting their congregants on discrimination and stigma against people living with HIV/AIDS, noted that it is through faith and teaching that behavioral changes can be achieved. He said that discrimination and stigma were capable of impending progress made in mitigating the impact and spread of HIV/AIDS in the country, and cautioned against violating human rights through stigma and discrimination. In sports, the United States women's national team has confirmed it will face the Nigerian women's national team in 2 friendly matches slated for September. The U.S. ladies will first trade tackles with the Super Falcons on September the 3rd at the Children's Mercy Park in Kansas City, Kansas. On September 6th, both teams will face off again at the Audi Field in Washington, D.C. Head coach of the U.S. WNT, Vlatko Andonsky, who confirmed the game, said she's excited to play 2 matches against Nigeria, noting that Nigeria have very talented players who will present a lot of different problems for her team to solve on both sides of the ball. The US WNT Stars and Tribes, who are the current world champions, is the most successful team in international women's football, winning 4 Women's World Cup titles and 4 Olympic gold medals. Still in sports, the African champion Super Falcons of Nigeria believe they will celebrate another FIFA Women's World Cup ticket today after a quarter-final clash with the rival Lioness of Cameroon in Casablanca. All 4 teams that make the semi-finals at the ongoing African Women's Championship in Morocco will pick automatic tickets for the Women's World Cup, with the team adjourned to have finished 5th presented with another chance for a shot at a playoff tournament next year. Recall that in 2014 in Windhoek, Namibia, the Falcons ran away 2-0 winners to lift the trophy for the 7th time. Meanwhile, Amstel Malta Ultra has urged the Falcons to give in their very best to grab the World Cup ticket. On our entertainment news, maverick entertainer and activist Charles Oputa, popularly known as Charlie Boy, has asked Nigerians to fight for freedom and confront oppressors ahead of the 2023 election. Charlie Boy said this via his Twitter page while querying the capability of current Nigerian leaders in office. The activist asked Nigerians to get their PVCs in order to cause a change, stressing that enough is enough. While asking whether many Nigerians would willingly employ the current political office holders to run their businesses, the singer said the people now have no other option but to confront their oppressors. And that's all we have for you at this time. Do ensure to follow us on social media, all of which you can find on our website, SpectrumTv.ng. You have been watching Spectrum News at 12. I am Uyaniek, and thanks for watching, and do enjoy the rest of your day.